Yeah, if the God I pray to always agrees with me, I'm probably not in a relationship with God. I'm probably in a relationship with myself, and I call it God. I mean, how many times in the Old Testament are we told everyone did what was right in their own eyes? The necessary part of relationship is the freedom to disagree and oppose you to say, no, you've got it wrong in this area.
Welcome to 10 Minutes With. It's a podcast for people who want to listen to podcasts but don't have a lot of time. We've got a quick chat with someone you might be interested in learning more about in about 10 minutes. Mike Donehey of 10th Avenue North has a way of communicating the truth and love in his books, his Instagram reels, of course his music, and his opinions on seltzer water. Let's just put ourselves in an imaginary situation right now, okay? And you're at a friend's place, and you go and you open the fridge, and literally every flavor of sparkling water ever conceived of by man is in the fridge. What's your go-to for sparkling water?
You know, I just caught on to this new flavor called Island Punch by Spindrift, which has got a little bit of juice in it. And I was a very big naysayer. I went, I don't want any juice in my sparkling water. Let me tell you, I was wrong. This one, the Island Punch Spindrift, it'll knock your socks off.
Tagline, it'll knock your socks off.
Yeah. Or as my friend likes to say, it'll roll your socks up and down. That's what he likes to say.
I like that. There's a little more of a visual there, depending on if the legs are shaved or not. All right. Okay. I'm an orange cream man myself, but all right. A little splash of juice in there. That sounds pretty interesting. And I'll watch my socks while I'm at it. Make sure they're on real tight.
When you said depending on how hairy your legs were, it reminded me of that scene in Mrs. Doubtfire where the bus driver sees his hairy legs and he says, I like that Mediterranean look. Healthy, natural, just the way God made you. That's a quote that our bass player, Ruben, he used to always say that quote when we would play movie quote games. He'd go, healthy, natural, just the way God made you.
This is not at all the 4 minutes I anticipated thus far, and I am so thankful. So to give you a little bit of the words that have been impactful for me, Mike, are in the God's will conversation. So I grew up I was in Christian high school, so that sets you up specifically to be in that niche circle of thinking about God's will in like the 2000s. And this question is like all around, like, what's God's will? I don't want to miss God's will. And I don't know, I don't hear all the conversations, but I feel like this conversation has shifted in a healthy way. And I think words like yours about how to see the will of God for us have been a huge part in shaping especially young people's approach to God's will in our life. Anytime that comes up, I love to point to words like yours of how you would counsel somebody for God's will in their life.
Yeah, I would first start with the gospel to say, do you believe God's work is what validates you or your work validates you? And then when, like Jesus, you move out of validation, not for it, right? Like Jesus starts his ministry after he's baptized, after the Father says, this is my beloved Son in whom I'm well pleased. So when you sense God's pleasure in you, you're able to move out into the world, not in paralyzation, but in permission. So you're not thinking, what is the thing I have to do in order to do God's will? It is, how can I do this thing I'm doing that would align with God's will? Because according to 1 Thessalonians 5, God's will for our life looks much more like the posture of our heart than the occupation that we're pursuing.
I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah, kind of like think more about why you're doing what you're doing and how you're doing it more than you're thinking about what you're going to do.
Yes.
Because God's presence goes with us anywhere and everywhere. So anywhere we are, whatever we're doing, we can be in God's will.
Literally this last week, my wife and I were trying to make a decision together. What are we going to do? This or that? Kind of a binary decision. And I had the freedom to feel like saying, I think the Lord is a lot more concerned with how we make a decision than what decision we make. Is that kind of getting at that a little bit?
That's exactly right. And I meet so many kids, myself included. I remember I went to a Christian high school And I was so concerned that I was going to choose the wrong thing. And I did. That's what's so funny is I was fully convinced I was going to be an actor and I was going to be a theater major. And God is so good that if you keep trying to do whatever it is that you're doing, do unto God, he will direct your paths, right? Trust in the Lord with all your heart. He will direct. And he was faithful to thwart every path that I had made to be an actor, kept closing those doors in my face. And he kept opening doors to do music, which I didn't feel talented enough to do or prepared enough to do. And I think God actually led me toward music because I had to depend on him, not on myself.
I also think about how a big conversation all the time, anytime, our disagreements. And I don't know if it just feels like it's one of those years where like, okay, we got a lot we're disagreeing about right now, but we're not always going about it the right way as Christians. Thank you for thinking about this topic, by the way, and thank you for being a voice in how to disagree well as Christians. How did you see that while you were writing Grace in the Gray?
Well, felt well suited to speak on healthy disagreement because our band has the unique privilege of playing in probably 1,000 different churches. So we have this bird's eye view of, man, there's a lot more in common that churches have, I think, than they even realize themselves. And not to mention, I've been in a band. So you got to learn how to disagree. You got to learn how to give everyone permission to speak, because if everyone doesn't have permission to speak, then you're just in a manipulative, abusive situation. So when you give people permission to disagree, that's how you actually know you're in a relationship. It's like the reason I know I'm in a relationship with God is because God disagrees with me. If God always agreed to me every time I prayed to him, he agreed with exactly what I thought and felt, I'm not in a relationship with God. I'm in a relationship with myself, and I call it God.
Whoa. Can you say that one more time for me?
Yeah, if the God I pray to always agrees with me, I'm probably not in a relationship with God. I'm probably in a relationship with myself, and I call it God.
That's a scary thought, actually.
I mean, that's the tale of the Bible. I mean, how many times in the Old Testament are we told everyone did what was right in their own eyes? So I think a lot of people love the thought of, I'm in a relationship with God, he makes me feel good. Well, the necessary part of relationship is the freedom to disagree and oppose you, to say, no, you've got it wrong in this area.
Man, that's not comfortable, but that's needed. That's needed. Like, that's where growth happens.
Any married person knows that. Imagine if you said to your wife, the way I know we're healthy is if we always agree.
Yeah, right.
You'd go, no, I need to be free to speak in order for this to be a relationship.
Yeah, because that'd be a one-way thing. Man, I know I need work in this, because for me with disagreement, I got to be honest, that's a struggle for me, Mike.
Yeah, how to lean in towards someone who's disagreeing with you. That's kind of the picture Jesus gives us. Someone strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. So Jesus is giving us this picture of when we believe the gospel, it removes our defensiveness and our defeatedness. Do you know what I mean by that?
Break that down for me more. I'm really intrigued on that.
So if God's work is what validates me, like I said earlier, I should actually be the most open to critique of any person. Because if you tell me, hey, you did that wrong, I'm not defensive. I have a defender. So I can go, yeah, oh, I did that wrong? That makes sense. I need a savior. Of course I'm going to make mistakes. And I'm not defeated either, because I have a savior who gives me victory through Jesus. So no matter how many times I fall or screw up, I don't go, oh, I guess I'm just not worth being a friend. I guess I just always screw up. You go, of course I screw up. And I have a savior who loves me in spite of my worst. So you're able to get back up. So the gospel undoes the curse of defeatedness and defensiveness and allows you to be disagreed with.
Wow. Yeah, that breaks down a layer when I feel like I've got to stand up. Wait, hold on. You're misunderstanding me. You're getting me wrong here. It's like, okay, wait. All right. Different points of view.
Jesus gives us the freedom to be misunderstood.
That's a tough one.
Jesus was misunderstood. His own disciples didn't understand what he came to do up until his death on the cross. And even after that, that helps me to know I'm in good company when I'm being misunderstood.
Lord, for the grace to have more of that. Okay. I've got a selfish question, Mike. I'm a girl dad of a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, but I know you've got twice that many, right?
I have 4 daughters.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So what's your favorite part of being girl dad?
You know, I dropped them off at the airport this morning because they got spring break, so they're going to the beach while I start tour. And the best part is just they hug me so tight and they look right in my eyes and they just say, "I love you so much, Daddy." And there's just nothing better than that.
Is there any words you would speak to a Mike who was in my position, looking back?
Yeah, the greatest advice I got from all the mentors that I respect, it's 2 words, real simple. They go, when it comes to having healthy relationships with your kids, be interested. So what happens is when your kid's small and they want to color and they want to read books and they want to do these things that you're not interested in, or, maybe they have some weird hobby that they like to do, lean in and be there and be interested so that when they become teenagers, you have that rapport with them. And what I've been told some guys do is they wait until their kid is on their level to be interested in what they're interested in. And then the kid feels like, oh, I want to be interested in me. Another way to say that is the greatest gift I can give my girls is for them to sense my delight in them. At the end of the day, do they sense my dad delights in me? Because when we look at ourselves, isn't that when we go wrong? Is when we lose the sense that God delights in us.
Yeah. That's blowing my mind right now. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And from Mrs. Doubtfire to being delighted in by God, I don't know. That's about all I could ever hope for, my friend. I'm so grateful for that and for your time.
Oh, thank you, Puppet. Oh, you wicked monkey. Oh, okay. There you have it.
The Invited Tour with 10th Avenue North and Natalie Lane is Thursday, March 27th in Meadville, Pennsylvania, Friday the 28th in Bath, New York, and Sunday the 30th in Canandaigua, New York. Tickets are at familylife.org/events. You might also consider supporting Family Life, the listener-funded ministry that makes this and other podcasts possible. Go to familylife.org to find out more about what we do. Did you know Family Life offers a variety of podcasts? Get up to date with Family Life news or enjoy some family time with Family Life kids. There's If That Makes Sense, a Family Life original podcast talking about what life is really like as a Christian in your 20s and 30s, and Therese Talk, a podcast with help for women to better serve their families and community. They're all free and on demand at familylife.org. Just click podcast in the radio menu.